Okay. So here we are. Let me re-enable ad block, 1 sec.
Okay, so in this case, whenever you want to start, you can just count me down and we can go.
Alright, perfect. Looks like I'm all set on my end, so we are ready to go. Alright, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. Yes, please gear yourself. These puns will be frequently occurring. Alright, so new game. And we are all set to go. So, if we're ready for countdown, I can go ahead and provide that.
Sounds good.
Alright. In 3, 2, 1, go. Right away we mash start to skip 2 cutscenes. I'm gonna press L to skip the dialogue. And we'll be off. So, this is Frogger's Journey: The Forgotten Relic. You may be wondering, what's a Frogger game doing in an action RPG marathon? Well, my friend, that will be explained shortly. However, first of all, we need to trigger some events. So first we need to grab the site pass, the key, a few other objects. I'll explain all of this a little bit later, but right now, we gotta get through this. We're set to go. So, the gist of this game is that you are Frogger, of course, and you are sent a letter by your grandpa Phineas. He is an archaeologist, and he has invited you to join him at the dig site in Koboti. K-O-H-O-B-T-I. Excuse me. K-O-B-O-H-T-I. There we go. And, so, of course you accept the offer, and, here you are. This is where the game picks up. You have arrived, but it seems like your grandfather is nowhere to be seen. So about 70% of this game is going to be you searching for your grandfather. And the other 30% is a bit of a plot twist involving that fellow in the pink, or the purple suit. His name is Eric von Wiesel. And yeah, I'll go ahead and dive into his subplot a little bit later. In the meantime, our key has unlocked this round relic, which we will take to the local mechanic and discover that it is something called an O-part, which is an out-of-place artifact. And it turns out to be exactly what my grandfather, as Frogger, was looking for this entire time. So who would have thought that all you need to do is take an ancient keystone to the dig site and your search would have been over. Anyway, here's Dusty the mechanic. Notice the anglicized text, regardless of this being the Japanese version. So, really quickly, let me explain version differences. In the US version, first of all, the US version came out first, so it has more bugs and just general glitchiness. However, this version has, of course, the text skips, which are pretty much a given for Japanese copies. It's going to be faster. But also, they fixed a lot of bugs that cause accidental deaths. And they also made some bosses easier, so it's a lot safer to run the Japanese version. So that's why I switched to this version for the marathon. And actually, the difference between in time between the US and Japanese versions is literally 5 seconds. So between the glitches being removed and the bosses being shortened, it all balances out in the end. Anyway, now that our O-part is working, we are able to use it for long hopping, which is our first ability that O-part gives us. notice in the upper right corner I have a little foot icon. That represents me having equipped the long jump to the A button. So as the run goes along, we'll find more abilities in the form of ancient relics that we can hire Dusty to equip for us. Also, you may notice that in a departure from the traditional Frogger format, this game has lives, or a sort of Zelda-style heart container system. You may have noticed that, as Asper wisely points out here, I collected a frog head in Dusty's basement, which is kind of like the tutorial level for figuring out how to use Opart. Those frog heads are extra lives, and I used to get 2 per run, but now I only get 1 due to a recent discovery. And by recent, I mean I just found it out last week, that you can actually skip that second head, and it saves about a minute. So, you may have noticed I went out of my way to get 5 coins. I actually have to, or in this game they're called curio. And I need to pay 5 curio to go to the next level. I also picked up a memo, which is actually a note from Phineas. He writes in an ancient script, so I have to drop it off to Leona, the fox lady, to translate. And in order for her to translate, we have to make time pass. And to make time pass, we have to talk to merchants and various people around town. So now that I talked to Mohan the merchant up there, I will have received the instructions to go to the river. So now we're going to go down to Antonui, or who I call Mr. Shasta, for reasons you shall soon see, as he is an otter. And go ahead and pay him 5 curio to take us up the river. Right here is a very tight skip that I'm going to try to achieve. Basically, the way this works is, let me explain frame buffers really quickly in this game. Every time you tap a hop in, you are allowed to tap in another hop. Right there is the start of the skip. So yeah, as soon as one hop begins, you can input another hop and it will execute on the next available frame after the first hop. Perfect, there's the skip right there. So yeah, you have to be fast enough to get past that bee, but not so fast that you hit the mushroom at the beginning. So now I'm going into this area with full hearts. I can damage boost right here. That's a 50-50 whether you get hit by that shroom right there or not. But since I did save 1 extra heart, I can boost through these bees as well, which is technically a perfect level. Okay, and I did not do that correctly. So, there's a little bit of time loss. This run normally takes about an hour, 8 minutes to finish. However, I put the estimate at 125 because of general spaghetti like that. That can happen sometimes. If I were doing this, like, in an actual PB attempt, that would be a rip run, but this is a marathon. We've got to keep the people happy. Got to keep the show going. Also, you notice there was a little bit too slow for B-skip, so I'm going to have to do this casually. Back up strats. Okay, it was too slow there. So yeah, this game is very heavily cycle-based. And now that I only have 2 hearts, I'm going to have to wait this one out, because I actually have to damage boost through this mushroom right here. So I'm going to take this a little bit more carefully, not be so greedy. There we go. Wait for the pufferfish to blink twice, and then we can cross. Blink, blink. There are cues for everything in this game. By the way, bananas heal you to full health, and tomatoes give you 1 heart. This is my favorite part of probably in the entire run right here, crossing these logs, because it's consistent, and it's a lot of fun to get right. There we go, 50-50, yes. Okay, so what I did right there is misalign myself with the grid on purpose, in order to save an extra hop. It saves 10 frames, but it's mostly for swag, and it's pretty cool. That allowed me to collect 2 extra curio without moving out of my way. And here's the relic. And that is very true in Asper. Alright, so we're going to pay Dusty 15 Curio to upgrade our Opart with that relic we just found in the river. And this represents our first of maybe 9 stretch breaks in this run. So I'm going to set the controller down, stretch really quickly. All the cars, yeah. The first level in my other main speed game, Temple of the Frog, actually starts out with a car level. So if you want cars, that's the game to check out. A little slow for that cycle. So now that we have a flashlight on our Opart, we are going to go back to the cave, equip the said flashlight, and go deeper into the cave. Now these porcupines are complete RNG. Sometimes they will move, and other times they will pause and shoot out spines. So for good RNG, you have to hope for them to be in the proper position for you not to have to either wait for them or damage boost through them. If you do get good RNG, you can continue through the next section without grabbing the safety banana, but since you need all 4 hearts for this next part, you do have to pick up that safety banana if you are even 1 heart low. See, there's another instance right there. Also, this level is supposed to be a bit of a maze, but of course, since we have the maze memorized, we do not need to go through the trials and tribulations of said maze. And right there, what I did is a super hop boost. When you know you're going to take damage, you can circumvent most of the frames lost by super hopping through the enemy, instead of merely hopping into it. So now you notice that there's an earthquake occurring. This earthquake has some very interesting properties. So every time you change scenes, the timer for these particular screen shakes resets. So you have to go through the entire town with as few shakes as possible, obviously to save time. So what I'm doing here is hitting all of the trigger points. Hopefully I can get this guy, he's very tight. Nice. So that also saves the cycle. And optimally you can get in and out of all the buildings you need to in time. Also check this out, fastest memo translation ever. Just gave her the memo and it's back, because we already hit all of the trigger points. So this tells us to go back to the cave and defeat our first boss. Now here's a major point in the Japanese version that deviates from the US version. This boss, you'll notice that the first wave of enemies is the bats. Now look how they're all clustered together like this. There are 4 up here, 4 down there. In the US version, he gives you about 10 bats per row, and they're all spread out. So over the 3 phases that this boss takes, running the JP version takes about 18 seconds less time. Same deal here. Like, we would barely be out of phase 1 at this point in the US version. The only reason that the Japanese version is not overall faster is the text boxes every time you get an item, and Frogger does that Zelda get item pose. That actually takes 0.73 seconds longer, give or take, per item get in the JP version. And that's literally the only thing that wastes time. So for example, I'd be able to skip this 0.73 seconds faster. But that's pretty much the only reason that I don't run this version all the time. So now we're going to do a little bit of farming. Fortunately, we're not going to do as much farming in this game as we're going to do other games in this marathon. But yeah, we just need 20 coins here, and then we're set for the rest of the run, basically. Also, if you guys want to spam frog car, capital F, capital C, all one word, that is a Franker Face Z emote that I recently added to my roster, and it's pretty applicable to this game. Because it's a frog in a car going fast. So during this break, I'll go ahead and give you an example. Oopsie. Yeah, y'all got it. Alright, so now we have the Mega Claw. I'm gonna go ahead and equip that right now. That looks great, guys. Good old Pagchomp. Alright, so now that we have the Mega Claw, we're going to go back into the cave and snag ourselves 120 extra coins. Yes, 120. We're going to do that by using the Mega Claw to pull over one of these grabbable tiles. And that will allow us to navigate further into the cave. Right here. Skadoop. Alright, and we're going to exit right there and be out. So what I did just then was select restart stage, and that warps us to the beginning of the stage, so we don't have to backtrack. Talk to Leona, then Mohan again. By the way, Mohan up here is the penguin fella, and he is both the best and the worst merchant in any game in history. 90% of the time he is either closed or out of stock of everything, and the 10% that he is actually useful, he is either trying to sell you an overpriced item for around the price of 999 curio, or he is trying to make you do this particular fetch quest. Let me explain this. That most recent memo that we found explains that Phineas was recently visiting the pyramid. However, we don't have any way to access the pyramid except by camel, and the only person in town who has a camel is Mohan the merchant. However, he won't part with it for the world unless he gets the Crest of Poseidon, which we have to go fetch right now. A little bit further up the river. I can use my grapple hook right here and continue on. Alright, I was a little bit slow for that cycle. If you're really good, you can make an early cycle right there. I recently golded with that technique. Anyway, I'm going to focus right here. I'm going to concentrate a bit because I've lost a lot of runs to this part right here. FYI, each hop is 10 frames, and you also have to press the D-pad once per hop. There is no auto hop in this game. Can do that because we can grab an extra tomato right here. We can also grab another extra one up here. Just for safety. That'll allow us to boost through these guys if necessary. Nope, not necessary. That's good. Yeah, it does make sense, doesn't it? Acquire legendary artifact. Get the opportunity to rent a camel for a day. Definitely a fair trade. Anyway, you might be interested to know that I recently got a couple of new PBs in this game, including, as I mentioned, the full minute of time save, having skipped the second frog head. There we go. And what stuns me is that there's constantly stuff to optimize in this game. It's surprisingly deep for a Frogger game, just because of all the little stuff you can add to the run. Anyway, you have the Crest of Poseidon now. That was that little blue thing. And now that Mohan has it, he's going to freak out a bit. And now he will allow us to use the camel to traverse the desert. So here's the pyramid. I'm going to grab a couple of curio here and there. However, they are not necessary to go out of my way for ever since they rerouted the game. Once again, these bugs are RNG. So sometimes they'll speed up, sometimes they won't. If they do, then it probably will end up causing them to run into you and waste hearts and time. So I'll grab that for safety. Alright, these pushers right here are a mess as far as programming goes. If you're not buffering a move in front of them, they'll pretty much always push you off immediately. It's also RNG as to whether they push or they stay put for like a period of 2 seconds. Right there is actually a trait that is featured primarily in this version, and not really anywhere else in the US version. Actually, I'm kind of glad that happened, is because, grab that for safety. That animation of you getting flung off the cliff doesn't happen in the US version. That's a little detail they added in the Japanese version. In the US version, you just drop straight down. Anyway, what's another thing that's nice about this game is that if you get pushed off a cliff like that, or otherwise fall down into a pit or something, you do get an opportunity to redeem yourself, in a sense, by traversing a sort of penalty mini-level. And if you make it out of there with minimal to no damage, then you can start back at the beginning of the room with no penalty besides wasting time, of course. Alright, we can just go right through you. Sometimes if I'm running low on hearts right there, I'll just mosey on through them and skip a cycle, but I was able to go right through them this time because I did have a little bit of extra buffer. And once again, there's a banana on this screen, so I can get back to full health. Alright, take a breath. And now we're going to go up to the last level of the pyramid, which is only one room, which is good attention to detail, because as the rooms get smaller, or the tiers get smaller, the rooms get shorter. Alright, so check out this glitchiness. Okay, looks like Windows wants to update on me, so as soon as it tells me what it's doing, then I'll go fix it. Okay, I'm gonna have an opportunity to get rid of this Windows 10 update prompt as soon as I hit this relic. So give me a second while I do that. There we go. Perfect timing. So now you'll notice that there is a rainstorm in Kaboti. And yeah, we have Mohan to blame, as we are about to find out. I have to donate 10 curio to the library right here to find out a little bit of tidbit of information that'll help later. Talk to this guy, and then Frogger will prompt us to talk to Mohan. Which we will right here, right now. And he explains that the crest of Poseidon was fabled to contain, basically, like, contain the Leviathan. Like, that's literally what they call it in this game, is the Leviathan. So now we have to go defeat Leviathan. And mind you, this is the second boss in this game. Anyway, he's so dopey. He goes, nah. But once again, they nerfed this boss for the Japanese release, because normally he would be smart enough to avoid you when you approach the fruits, or the durians, as the case may be. But in this version, he just kind of wanders around, seemingly aimlessly. And it's also a lot easier to dodge his attacks if he does attack you. There we go. Easy fight. But yeah, in the US version, this is a major reset point for me. So, another reason to run the JP version. Alright, and right here, we're actually going to not talk to Mohan. This is where I would normally get the second frog head. But we're doing new strats. So I'm going to install that new relic we got before we had to defeat Leviathan. And this will give us Rock Break. So now we're going to go down here and talk to Leona twice. She'll give us the translated memo. And now we go to Atlantis. Because yes, Atlantis also exists in this game. Once again, we have to pay Shasta 30 curio. There we go. And Atinui is his actual name. A-T-I-N-I-U-I. And he explains that Atlantis is right next to his fishing spot. So, yeah, that's cool. I wouldn't mind fishing next to Atlantis, especially when you can catch these land-dwelling fish. Anyway, pretty much the same deal here. This is a maze of sorts, but it's also the fastest level in the game, if you know where to go. Good RNG. Once again, these blobs are RNG, as to whether they expand on you, or if they continue moving. Also, that fish right there that I boosted through, I have actually phased through that fish, like once. If you're frame perfect, you can go right through that fish. Anyway, we discover a new relic. So we're going to go install it right now. And this will give us time stop, if I'm not mistaken. Now, time stop will allow us to go deeper in the pyramid, because previously there was a major sandstorm and a conveyor belt, both working against us. However, now that we have time stop, we can actually circumvent this. Yep, that's Frogger for you, in a nutshell. So, we can return to levels I've already visited via other characters, if I select them again. There we go. So just like that, we're into Pyramid 2. First thing we're going to do is grab some extra curio. Right there. And right there. Alright, so now, this is the first of what I like to dub the Dr. Wily stages, because, like in Mega Man, you actually have to use every one of your abilities to your advantage, up to this point, in this level. You may have noticed I've already switched from Time Sand to Mega Claw, Super Jump, Flashlight, Rock Break, so I've basically used all of my abilities already. A little bit of time save right here if I grapple that bag. Broom broom. Indeed. So these conveyor belts are a little bit silly, because if you continue hopping on them, they will not move you. However, the second you stop hopping, you will snap to its grid and automatically start moving. It's a little bit of speed strat right there, to just continue moving. Of course, that applies to just about any game. If you continue moving, it's bound to be a speed strat. I'd imagine if you were really good at this section, you could count the number of taps and do it by memory without using the flashlight. But I'm not exactly a human TAS, which is why I'm actually TASing this game later this month. Anyway, we're nearing the end now. After this room is going to be what I call the gauntlet of the pyramid. Because basically, if you have any sense of pride about yourself, you're going to speed through this room and do it the best you can. Here we go. We basically won. Perfect. Alright. And we pick up another relic. Notice that we will never want for coins ever again. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's basically TAS. Basically. So now once again we go to Dusty, get our Opart upgraded. For a price. For an ever-increasing price, note. Because that upgrade cost 40 curio. Anyway, spoilers. It's time to get our Opart stolen. I'm gonna set the DS down and grab a quick drink. And this level by far is the most infuriating of the entire run, for me at least. It's the only level in this game that you have to complete without Opart. Obviously, because it is stolen. So after talking to Leona twice, you determine that the Opart was stolen by a society called the Black Lotus Society. And so we go down here, talk to Griffith, or as I like to call him, Captain Falcon. And he takes you to the Black Lotus Society hideout. Now this level, here's why this is infuriating. These moving platforms have the world's worst hitboxes. Like, it could very well happen in this run. I'll try to hop onto a platform and I'll seemingly go right through it. You have to have some really offbeat timing to make sure you nail it. Also, in this level alone, if you get hit by any of these enemies, these flying squirrels, you'll go into a mode called Hyper Hop, in which you will immediately get launched in whatever direction you're facing, and subsequently cannot stop hopping. Like this. I'm not pressing anything except the directions. So, the only thing that cures Hyper Hop is for it to either wear off naturally, or to eat a pear, which is why there are pears scattered throughout this level. Excuse me. There's some very tight cycles that you can choose to make. However, I will not be choosing to make most of them, because they are very jank. Most of them involve tight skips, like that one, and that one. So yeah, this is not safe at all, what I'm doing right now. There we go. This run has a lot of tools. Yeah, it does use a lot of tools. Most notably... Hold on a second. I'm on my wrong train of thought here. Yeah, I'll get into that a little bit more. There's a more appropriate place for me to bring up, like, weirdness as far as tools go in this game. But here's another instance of jank platforming. Check this out. Yoink. Yoink. Alright, we made it. One of the things they nerfed in the Japanese version is the hitboxes of most of these enemies. Under most circumstances in the US version, if they graze you, you're pretty much... you know, it'll hit you and you're screwed. But they give you a little bit of leeway in the Japanese version. I'll point that out again later once we come to the shielding segments of the run. But yeah, this is the final room. Fortunately, we did not get any jank platforming, so that is very good. Beautiful. Alright, and now we see the Black Lotus Society placing the Opart upon a pedestal. We take note here that there are actually 2 pedestals. We find that a bit curious, but being Frogger, we don't have much of a mind to contemplate such things. Anyway, now we talk to Leona. She's going to run away because she thinks the Black Lotus Society is after her. And now we talk to that guy, right there, who gives us misinformation. That's the only time we talk to him in the whole game. The rest of the time, he is only blocking entrances and exits, and saying things like "Hi, Frogger," or other completely useless information. Needless to say, he is by far my least favorite character in this game. Anyway, I recently discovered a pretty quick way to defeat these guys, so let me show that off really quickly. By the way, there's absolutely no reason for you to be fighting this boss. You receive no reward at the end. The only reason you're here is because you received misinformation from that one dude. Anyway, you damage these guys evenly, because as soon as one takes 3 hits, the other one will start sending out tornadoes, which wastes time. There's the first round, and we can end this right now, if I have enough leeway. Here we go. Perfect. So that's the quick kill. That saved about 20 seconds on my most recent PB. So that's pretty cool. So now Leona gives us the... it turns out she only went to the dig site to cool off, by the way. So now she gives us her bracelet because she suspects the Black Lotus Society is after her bracelet. And we take it to Dusty, and it turns out he can install it on our Opart to gain a new ability for 40 Curio. So that's pretty handy. So that ability is called Scuba, which means we can now breathe underwater as a frog. Who would have thunk it? So we're going to go straight back to Atlantis, hop in that pool that we noticed earlier. And now we are underwater. And we move at the speed of underwater. Do this. Now these little purple fellas on the ground, they're pretty much the only screen timers in this game. Like, the rest of the enemies are almost entirely spawn timers, but for some reason these purple cycle-based guys are screen timers. So depending on when you enter the screen, they will be on a different cycle. Also messed up a little bit right there, but it shouldn't matter too much. You see that? Right there is a good example. And this right here is why I equipped the grapple hook at the A position instead of the claw, or excuse me, that is the claw. This is why I equipped the claw in the first position instead of the super hop, because the super hop is super slow, and the grapple hook allows you to snag things from a mile away without actually having to travel that distance. Just like that. Also, fear not, for we will be out of this area very shortly. Once again, this is supposed to be a sort of puzzle or a maze. But you know, we know where we're going. We're cool. So I can just do that. Full heal myself. Great RNG. Completely pointless there. Gotta get in line with fish cycle. It's a fish's cycle. And right there, you notice the purple things actually had a little bit of a different cycle going, because they spawned on the screen when I moved into their vicinity. And that's the only enemy in this game that does that for some reason. In any case, we are Audi 500 now. This is the exit. We're gonna discover a new relic. This is our final main upgrade. We're gonna take this straight to Dusty. And this one is the shield we were talking about. $45 curio this time. So right away I'm going to equip this. Assign it to B, because that's what I'm used to. And we talk to Leona, who reveals that she was formerly a citizen of Atlantis before it sunk, due to the vicious attack from this monster that we're about to defeat with the shield. Take your bets now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a jellyfish. Spooky, scary monster. Alright, really quickly. There is the quick kill for this guy. I'm doing it right now. Those green orbs are supposed to get shot out by this thing. But for some reason, you can just hit him with it, like before he even shoots him. So, that's what I do. The quick kill is a lot easier in this game, in this version of the game. And he stops a lot sooner as well, so it saves a lot of time. And he's dead. Now we collect an anchor, which we will take to Dusty right away. However, we do have some events to trigger first. By the way, another difference between the US and JP versions, that boss actually takes 2 hearts of damage, or deals 2 hearts of damage upon contact in the US version. And in this version, he only hurts you for 1. Yeah, believe it or not, the reason that he has the anchor is... Well, the reason that there's an anchor in him is because that's their excuse for why he was so, like, enraged and angry all the time, which is why he destroyed Atlantis. Right, we go this way. Talk to the librarian. Yet again. By the way, that dog up there that I donated 10 curio to earlier, his name is Namdev, in reference to the developers, Konami. It's very clever. Anyway, we just found out that we need to go to Eric's mansion. Eric von Wiesel, the purple-suited weasel we saw earlier in the game, lives in this wacky mansion, and we have to go check things out, basically. Because now we strongly suspect that he is the reason that Phineas is missing, because he wants to take the evil O-part, because there is a good O-part and an evil O-part that balance each other out. He wants to discover the technologies of the evil O-part and use them to take over the world in your classic villainous story. So once again, we have a bit of a maze to get through. First of all, I want to ask you this. How does this guy navigate his own house? This does not seem safe. Anyway, there we go. Head on up. And right here we're going to do some damage boosting. Hopefully I can get this correctly, so we don't have to break out shield and waste some frames. Perfect. And we can heal on every floor, so it does not matter. Alright, and this is the last instance of wonky platforming. Woo, we made it! I actually died there in PB. Or, like, I lost time. Also, you notice I just collected that, that apple right there, and it made a coin sound? My theory is that they left in the remnants of a coin and forgot to swap it out for the apple sound effect. There's a similar glitch in the other Frogger game I run, like, regularly. Frogger's Adventures, Temple of the Frog. There's actually an invisible coin in that game, which you have to account for in your 100% runs. It's really silly. There are 2 coins in a row, and you actually collect 3 if you move 1 space to the left. Anyway, we have a new relic that we collected from Dusty's, or Eric's mansion. So we're going to give it to Dusty. He's going to install it for free, which is rather strange because he's been raising his prices in these tough times. All the way from 15 to 50. He has no idea what it does. So I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway, let's go ahead and check on Leona. She is missing. Yo, Dusty, where's Leona? I'm sure he'll have the answers. He's trustworthy, right? He's a cool fella. Also, he seems to be expecting us. That's kind of strange. Anyway, he tells us that perhaps the Black Lotus Society is to blame, since we already suspected them. So, check out this cutscene, by the way. As soon as I enter the level, you get about a half second to check it out. Here it comes. Ooh, plot. Alright, so, our O-part is broken, and the only 2 abilities we still have at our disposal are Super Hop and Push Blocks. You know what that means? Block pushing puzzles! Let's go! This is by far the most exciting part of the run. You are going to be on the edge of your seat throughout these next 8 minutes. Go ahead and crack out the popcorn, get yourself a 7-Up. This is going to be a wild ride. And to be honest, I'm barely even kidding. Some of these puzzles are actually pretty confusing. Fortunately, I did grind these out for 2 hours once upon a time, so I know exactly how to complete them optimally. So bear with us, and we will be through this very, very quickly. There we go. So yeah, basically these first like 5 or 6 levels are tutorials on how to figure things out. But the one after this is our first real challenge. This is where we start deviating from the normal pattern here. It also introduces our first troll block, which is right here. If you push it straight across, it will block the exit. So you don't want to do that. Alright, while we're here, let me tell you a little bit of a story. So, Frogger's Adventures Temple of the Frog was my first, not only my first Game Boy Advance game, but also my first video game ever. And I highly blame that for the reason I speedrun these days. Because I picked it up after like a long time. For the first time in years, and I thought, hey, let's play this game again. This game is fun. And I discovered that I could complete it faster than the previous world record holder on speedrun.com, so I thought to myself, perhaps I shall start streaming. That was a little over a year ago. And in the wise words of some guy at the top of Mount Everest in 1922, I'm going to assume, started at the bottom, now we're here. Oh, FYI, in one of my more recent PBs, I had to squish a spider on my floor right there during that part, during that very part of the run in that room. So that was fun. Anyway, back to my story. This was the 5th or 6th game that I got, and it's the first time that I chose a game for myself. And it's solely because it had Frogger on it. Fortunately, I lucked out because this is the only other good Game Boy Advance Frogger game. The Lost Wand is okay for speedruns, but really bad as a casual game, and Frogger Advance The Great Quest, we do not talk about that game. In any case, yeah, I never got past the second boss when I was really little in this game. But I returned to it when I was like 13. And, I made it all the way here. By the way, I only had an original Game Boy Advance, Indigo. Which, of course, as you know, I had to play under direct light, or otherwise I couldn't see for diddly. But, yeah, also, no rechargeable batteries, it was just 2 straight-up AA's. So I got to this level. I played it for like 2 hours before finally, and I emphasize finally, getting to the end. Now, at the end of this corridor, I'm going to spoil something. There is a boss. And if you die on the boss, you have to start all the way back at the beginning of this entire series of rooms. This is by far the longest level in a casual or a speedrun playthrough of this game. And on the second to last, I want to say, puzzle room, my battery turned red. It gave me the 10% warning. And I was white-knuckling the boss so hard. For multiple reasons, actually. Not only because I had to finish the game and save as fast as possible, but also because the boss is absolutely ridiculous. It's even worse in the US version, but fortunately we're going to get a bit of a nerfed version in the JP release. Also, I messed this up. Something fierce. Oopsie. There we go. So you know those traditional cup and ball games? Like the shell games, you know? You put some sort of ball or round object under one out of many identical cups or shells. Mix them around, you gotta figure out which one is which. So, that is this boss in a nutshell. No pun intended. Actually, yes pun intended. That is a good pun, if I do say so myself. Hopefully y'all awake for this, because here we go. Just push this block into this hole, and we shall commence. Now, even though I'm streaming 60 FPS, I usually stream at 30 FPS, and I don't think it's possible to beat this fight in 30 FPS. Solely because it is so ridiculously fast in Phase 5. Starts out nice and easy. It's gonna turn around 9 times. He's in the middle. On the side. There we go. Oh, you know it's Super Pseudo. Alright, so he's on the right again. It's all good right now, it's all chill. You can keep track of him just fine. After Phase 3, that's when the run truly begins. And in my current PB, I failed this twice, and that's my biggest mistake of the run, is failing that twice. Alright, here we go. Deep breaths. Not bad. Phase 5. Let's go. I dare you all to keep up with this one. You can guess wrong as many times as you have lives. If you guess wrong, then it will zap you for 1 life. Or 1 heart. And there we go. I love it when he's on the right because it looks like the hand is zapping him from above. I forgot there was dialogue. Alright, and that's that boss. So now we have a bit of explaining to do. Leona is still missing. Have to go to talk to the librarian once again. This is basically the final sweep of the town we have to make before the end game, by the way. We are fast approaching the end of this run. Oh, by the way, those Black Lotus fellas, they're actually good guys. They were attempting to protect the Opart and its secrets. And because they know so much about ancient Opart technology, they were able to repair our Opart for us, so now we have our entire roster of moves available to us once again. So, now that Dusty and Leona are missing, we know exactly where we need to go next, and that is Eric's Mansion. We need to equip Scuba and Push Blocks for this next part. And Legasp! There's Phineas and Leona. And of course, we have Eric and Dusty in cahoots. So, basically, Dusty's a mercenary. He works for whoever's paying. And whether it screws over his pals, he cares not. So, I mean, it makes business sense, but morally, he is messed up. And we're going to take this route a little bit differently than usual, because I usually assume I have 5 hearts during this part, but since I don't, I'm actually going to take a safe path through these fish. Just like that. Now I can heal twice. And we're going to equip Shield. We can damage boost once through here safely. Now right here is where the nerfing becomes very obvious, because previously in the US version you had a lot less leeway between when you could turn around and block those missiles, but in this version you actually get a lot more time to do so. Go do this. Nice. That's really tight, by the way. And it's important to get that full heal right here, because you do some damage boosting, because Frogger is low-key a tank. I mean, check that out. That guy just does not care. Tight room once again. And if you get knocked off by these guys, you actually fall to your doom. So, I take damage right there intentionally and then immediately grab the tomato. Just for safety. And in a fairly recent PB attempt, I actually fell up here and lost like a huge lead. Regardless of how fast you are at any one time, one wrong move will immediately put you in red in this game. And so it gets pretty intense. I could have made that cycle, but I did not feel like risking it. Actually, hang on. I need to equip that. There we go. Right, and that was the last stage. Just need to round the corner, and we're good to go. For some reason, we can unlock the cage from the outside without a key or anything. It's just like, yeah, okay. Tap the cage and we're good to go. So now, we head to the cave where... Oopsie. We head to the dig site, rather, where Eric is actively attempting to release the power of the evil Opart upon the world. So this is it, guys. We made it. This is the end game. Head back on through. We'll notice that the other statue is broken now. So both Oparts are missing. And Dusty appears as a mini-boss before the main event here. So it's RGB, RBG. I always have to clarify that in my head because I always seem to get it wrong when I'm on PB pace. So there's our RGB to start off. When I test this game, I'm going to see if I can figure out if there's a faster way to do it, but this is the best way to do it as far as I can tell. Kazap. Now we chill here for a bit. Rip headphone users. And that fight's done. Alright, and yeah, PETA's gonna be really mad about that right there. Anyway, this is the final boss. I'm going to equip shield while I am turning around mid-cutscene, because that is an exploit that they did not remove in the JP version. Saves a tiny bit of time. Anyway, yeah, 3 phases of this. We have to stay within this force field generated by the evil Opart. Kazap. Have to do that 2 more times. And it's primarily up to RNG which direction he takes you. As far as I can tell, there's no rhyme or reason. However, the patterns on the floor, the lava on the floor, is always consistent. So if you bother to memorize the map, you can actually tell exactly where you are and when. Also, this part right here, I never really got a hang of as a kid, because it went too fast for me. But of course, there's no such thing as too fast when you're a speedrunner. Ooh, sounds like we got the music glitch, which occurs if a certain event takes place on the same frame as the note starts. Oh! Alright, so I just got hurt there, and I phased through the bullet, and I did not reflect it, so we're going long, apparently. 4th phase, let's go! This is why my estimate was so high. However, it seems like we're still going to be able to get in there pretty smoothly. And he's dead. Not quite GG, but very close. So now we have a bit of cutscene to skip. If I mash efficiently enough, I will actually cause the colors to corrupt. I'm mashing L, Start, and A right now. So let's see if I can get a little bit of color corruption during this part right here. A little bit right there. Saw a little bit of purple on the left side. But yeah, if you do it right, you can get like a full-on orange and red Opart. It's really creepy. Anyway, now we talk to a couple more people, and get ready on time, by the way. Say yes here, skip one more cutscene, and time. Woo, 5750. Pretty good. Oh, yo. My, at the very bottom right here, I want to note that that's the number of lives lost, or amount of damage taken. That's a good amount right there. Just want to say that. Alright, well, I think that's actually just about it. That's all I have to say for this run. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of the fawn. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you can stick around over the weekend for it. And this is my 2nd time ever running this game in a marathon setting, so I really appreciate you all being here in attendance. And yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. I am WinnerBit, in case you want to check me out anywhere. Universally, I have the same name, so you can just search me anywhere, you'll find me. And yeah, that'll do it for me. Go ahead and roll the credits, and we're done here.
Okay, thank you very much. It was a good run.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have some Devil May Cry 4, any % new game Devil Hunter by Mecharazium. So we'll just let these credits run for a little bit, and then, because, you know, we're running pretty good ahead of schedule right now, so we'll just let that run while I get the next runner set up, and then we'll have a short bit of intermission and then head off to Devil May Cry 4.
All right, look forward to that.